On Expedition Bigfoot, the team encountered a truly chilling event that deepened the mystery surrounding the legendary creature. After weeks of strategically placing trackers and sound recorders in an effort to detect signs of Bigfoot, the crew endured a long period of inactivity, with no evidence of movement or sound. Then, unexpectedly, one of the trackers picked up a distinct signal. Russ, a skilled tracker, immediately investigated and pinpointed the source, which led to an unexplained surge of water nearby, as if something massive had disrupted the area. Intrigued and unnerved, the team decided to press forward. Maria and Russ ventured across the rugged terrain, determined to follow the signal and uncover the truth behind this phenomenon. The team's investigation was grounded in the tantalizing theory that multiple Bigfoot individuals might inhabit the area. This belief is supported by centuries of Native American legends that describe wild men or Sasquatch as towering, elusive creatures with an overwhelming musky odor and enormous footprints, some measuring up to 24 inches long. Bigfoot sightings often involve eerie behaviors, such as guttural vocalizations, wood knocking believed to be a form of communication, and even rock throwing, all of which had been reported by locals and researchers in the same region. The suspense reached its peak when the team stumbled upon a horrifying scene deep in the wilderness, a scatter of bones and body parts strewn across the ground, as though a violent event had taken place. The arrangement of remains seemed deliberate, hinting at a predator unlike anything known to science. This grisly discovery aligned with other historical accounts of Bigfoot behavior, such as territorial aggression and its alleged role as an apex predator. The sight left the team shaken but resolute, as they realized they might be closer than ever to unraveling the truth behind the legend. Adding to the intrigue, some researchers have theorized that Bigfoot could be a surviving population of Gigantopithecus, an extinct species of giant ape that lived in Asia over 100,000 years ago. If true, this would explain the creature's massive size and strength. Moreover, the vocalizations and wood knocks often attributed to Bigfoot could be remnants of an ancient communication system used by these primates. The discovery on Expedition Bigfoot highlights not only the team's bravery but also the enduring fascination with these enigmatic creatures. The intersection of folklore, science, and unexplained phenomena continues to fuel the search for answers, pushing the boundaries of what we know about the natural world. The team's investigation took an even more thrilling turn as they delved deeper into the dense backwoods, where towering timberlines shrouded the landscape in mystery. After hours of meticulous searching, they uncovered a groundbreaking clue that left them awestruck: a massive, non-human handprint, at least twice the size of a normal human hand. The size and shape of the print were undeniable. Maria and Russ examined it closely and confirmed what they had long suspected. It was an imprint left by none other than Bigfoot. This discovery marked a pivotal moment in their adventure, reigniting their excitement and resolve. Eager to share this astonishing revelation, Maria and Russ immediately contacted Ronnie, who was electrified by the news. He wasted no time making his way across Ridge's Island to join them, determined to see the hand-shaped impression for himself. The team's collective enthusiasm soared as they realized this find could be one of the most significant pieces of evidence in their search for the legendary creature. Ronnie arrived early the following morning, keen to investigate the site. The enormous handprint was unlike anything the team had encountered before, standing out starkly from the smaller indentations they had previously found scattered across the forest floor. As Ronnie examined the impression, he was struck by its sheer size and distinct features, which confirmed the presence of something extraordinary on the island. The team quickly began to document every detail of the print, ensuring they preserved the evidence for further analysis. Determined to uncover more clues, the group pressed further into the island's dense wilderness. They worked tirelessly, combing through the terrain in hopes of finding additional evidence that could help piece together the mystery of Bigfoot's existence. The discovery of the massive handprint not only validated their efforts, but also fueled their belief that they were closer than ever to uncovering the truth about one of the most enduring legends in history. However, the handprint was just the beginning of their astonishing findings. A short distance away, the team made an even more extraordinary discovery: distinct knuckle marks near the original handprint. These impressions suggested that the creature used its hands not only for grasping, but also for support while moving. indicating that Bigfoot alternates between bipedal and quadrupedal locomotion. This insight aligned with the team's previous revelations, further painting a picture of a creature that bridges the gap between humans and apes. Mireya recalled their earlier discovery of a skull, much larger than that of a human, which exhibited features of both humans and primates. The skull had a fissure-like structure, suggesting a blend of characteristics, as though Bigfoot evolved with traits from both lineages. Its ability to walk upright, like humans, while also utilizing its knuckles, like apes, supports theories that Bigfoot may possess a unique evolutionary adaptation for survival in rugged environments. As they examined the knuckle prints, the team marveled at how clearly they indicated movement, providing further proof of Bigfoot's versatility and strength. But just as they began to process this groundbreaking discovery, they were hit with a shocking revelation. Russ noticed not one but two distinct sets of prints in the dirt, each varying in size and shape. This was a game changer. It meant that more than one creature had been present in the area. To confirm their findings, the team used their advanced equipment, including a zoom camera and infrared imaging. The prints were unmistakable, showing subtle but definitive differences in stride length and foot structure. This discovery shattered previous assumptions and reinforced their theory that multiple Bigfoot individuals may inhabit the region, possibly even moving in groups. The team's excitement was tempered by the weight of what this evidence could mean, that these creatures, often dismissed as mere legend, might truly be thriving in remote wilderness areas. The knuckle and hand impressions, combined with the dual tracks, marked a monumental step forward in their investigation, offering new layers of evidence for what could be one of the greatest cryptozoological discoveries in history. As Russell abruptly points out the significance of the distinct tracks, handprints, knuckle marks, and footprints, the team becomes even more determined to uncover the truth behind these findings. The presence of two distinct sets of tracks raises the stakes, heightening their belief that multiple creatures may inhabit the area. With this mounting evidence, their chances of finding these elusive beings feel closer than ever, and the team is brimming with curiosity to finally see the creatures responsible for the prints. Mireya quickly documents the evidence and sends it to Bryce for analysis. When Bryce examines the handprints, he is struck by an unexpected detail. The two handprints are not identical. This revelation adds another layer of complexity, suggesting not just the presence of multiple creatures, but also potential physical differences between them. The team becomes even more motivated to solve the mystery. Though they face a daunting challenge, the sheer size and density of the wilderness make tracking these creatures nearly impossible. Using their observations, the team hypothesizes that the prints were left near the river, which likely serves as a natural pathway for the creatures. The river cuts through the valley, encircling it and forming a natural bowl of land that is more manageable to search than the entire island. This insight gives the team a sense of direction, and they focus their efforts on the valley, believing it to be the creature's current habitat. Russell's comment about the sheer size of the handprint, "I can't think of anybody that has hands that big," resonates with the team. The enormity of the print emphasizes the creature's potential strength and scale, fueling their resolve to uncover the truth. Though their hypothesis that the creatures are moving along the riverside is still unproven, the team decides to take a calculated risk. They devise a bold strategy to track and possibly ensnare the creatures within the confines of the valley, hoping to corner them in this naturally enclosed space. Despite the challenges, the team remains optimistic. They know the odds of encountering these creatures are slim, but their unwavering determination and methodical approach give them hope. With the evidence they've collected and the plan they've devised, the team embarks on what could be their most significant step toward uncovering the reality behind the legend of Bigfoot. Thanks to their meticulous planning, the team launches an ambitious operation to investigate the enigmatic creatures believed to inhabit the valley. Their entire investigation now hinges on the success of this plan. The stakes are high. If the creatures escape the valley, the team's strategy will fail, leaving them with no further leads. The team is determined to ensure that Bigfoot remains within the natural enclosure of the valley, which is surrounded by mountains rising 3,000 feet and spans over 20,000 acres of rugged terrain. "Mireya, Russ, this is Bryce. Do you copy?" Bryce's voice crackles over the radio. "What do you have, Bryce?" Russ replies eagerly. "Hey, We're catching something on the drone's thermal imaging. It looks humanoid in shape. This breakthrough electrifies the team. They quickly divide into two groups to cover more ground. Ronnie takes the right side of the valley, while Russ and Maria cover the opposite side. The search teams move cautiously, tracking footprints and scanning for any signs of movement along the riverbanks, knowing their quarry is likely using the waterway as a corridor. Meanwhile, Bryce and the drone team deploy cutting-edge technology to survey the valley from above. The drone, equipped with state-of-the-art thermal imaging and high-resolution cameras, flies in a circular pattern, systematically scanning the area from every possible angle. This aerial search provides a bird's-eye view of the valley, increasing the chances of spotting the creatures. Adding to the effort, a robot team has joined the hunt, coordinating with the search groups on the ground. Their advanced robots are equipped with motion detectors, infrared cameras, and AI-driven tracking systems to capture even the subtlest movements in the dense terrain. This collaboration between man and machine marks a bold step forward in the investigation, with every team working in unison to maximize their chances of success. As the search progresses, tension mounts. The teams navigate treacherous terrain, their movements slow and deliberate, as every step could lead them closer to the creatures or scare them away. The combined efforts of the ground teams, drones, and robots represent a fusion of grit, determination, and cutting-edge technology. All hope now rests on the seamless execution of their strategy and Bryce's ability to pinpoint the creature's location before they disappear into the vast wilderness. The team knows they are racing against time, but the thrill of discovery fuels their resolve. This coordinated effort could mark a turning point in their quest to uncover the truth about Bigfoot, taking them one step closer to solving one of the greatest mysteries of the natural world. Walking along the river, Bryce and the robot team reached the confluence point of two streams in the valley. Their advanced equipment was key to detecting any movement in the dense wilderness. Bryce cautioned his team, "Just be careful where you step, stay on this side," as they methodically scanned the area. The drones hovered overhead, equipped with thermal imaging and precision sensors, while the robots combed the rugged terrain, their AI systems analyzing every subtle movement. Meanwhile, Ronnie, Mireya, and Russ were further downstream, carefully surveying the valley's edge. Mireya and Russ relied on their thermal equipment, hoping to locate activity nearby. Suddenly, Bryce and the robot team picked up a fleeting thermal signature of a humanoid figure in the valley's thick vegetation. The figure's heat signature was unmistakable, a distinct humanoid shape moving quickly through the underbrush. "Mireya, Russ, this is Bryce. We've got something, it's moving near the glacier," Bryce called over the radio. Mireya and Russ, only a few miles from the reported location, immediately coordinated their movements with the drone team. They began ascending toward the glacier, where the humanoid figure had last been detected. The anticipation was palpable. Their focus heightened as they moved through the dense undergrowth toward what could be the breakthrough they'd been chasing. Meanwhile, Ronnie, patrolling the opposite side of the valley, suddenly picked up on something unusual. The timberline ahead of him came alive with faint sounds, branches cracking, leaves rustling, and the distinct thud of movement through the forest floor. Stopping in his tracks, Ronnie strained to see into the darkness. The dense canopy above blocked out most of the moonlight, leaving him with limited visibility. Despite the darkness, the sounds of movement were unmistakable. Whatever was out there was large and deliberate in its actions. Ronnie's heart raced as he radioed in his observations. "Bryce, I'm hearing something over here, something big. It's moving through the timberline. I can't see it, but I can hear it. It's close." Bryce immediately redirected one of the drones to Ronnie's location, hoping the thermal imaging could provide a better view of the area. The drone hovered over the timberline, its sensors searching for the source of the sounds. In the meantime, Ronnie cautiously moved closer, his flashlight cutting through the dense vegetation. Every step was deliberate, every sound amplified by the quiet tension of the moment. The team was now operating at full capacity, with Mireya and Russ closing in on the glacier, Ronnie investigating the timberline, and Bryce directing the drone and robot teams to pinpoint the activity. The valley had come alive with the possibility of discovery, the convergence of evidence and technology bringing them closer than ever to the creatures they had long been searching for. In the thick obscurity of the forest, Ronnie struggled to make out what he was hearing. He could sense the creature's presence, Its movements were loud enough to be felt in the air, but without visual confirmation, his nerves were fraying. Fortunately, Bryce, ever the reliable presence in the team, quickly sprang into action. Knowing how important it was to pinpoint the exact location, he coordinated with the drone team to dispatch a thermal imaging drone to Ronnie's position. The drone buzzed overhead, its sensors immediately capturing a spike in thermal radiation, an unmistakable sign of movement. At first, the team couldn't make out much detail, but as the drone's lens focused, the outline of something large became apparent. "Holy Bryce, I can hear it, but I can't see it." Ronnie's voice crackled over the radio, his excitement building. The drone's thermal lens captured fast-moving heat signatures, but the figure remained elusive, darting through the thick vegetation. The sudden shift in the thermal field confirmed that something large and undeniably non-human, was on the move. The creature's movements were rapid and purposeful, unmistakably bipedal. But then, as the robot team moved in for a closer scan, the signature abruptly vanished, as if the creature had melted into the forest. Ronnie's curiosity turned to urgency. The creature was so close to him it was almost surreal. He could hear the leaves rustling, the branches snapping under its weight, but he couldn't see it. It was maddening. In a split-second decision, he plunged into the thick tree line, determined to track down the mysterious being once and for all. As he pushed through the dense underbrush, the air felt thicker with anticipation. Ronnie had spent years tracking these creatures, hearing about their elusive nature, but never had he been this close to uncovering a definitive piece of evidence. He knew that this was his moment. The woods around him were still, save for the sound of his own hurried breath. With each step, the reality of possibly encountering the legendary Bigfoot, or whatever this being was, became more tangible. Bryce, still monitoring the drone's feed, quickly realized how close Ronnie had come to the creature. "Ronnie, I can see your position. You're right on top of it. Be careful." Bryce's voice was tinged with concern as he watched the thermal map, his eyes flicking between the data and the terrain. Ronnie's heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He wasn't just tracking a mystery now, he was about to confront it. The forest was alive with the sounds of movement, distant and near. But there was something else too. Something that made the air feel charged, as if nature itself was holding its breath. As he moved deeper into the woods, his flashlight cut through the shadows, but the dense canopy overhead allowed little light to filter through. The air was thick with humidity, the scent of earth and foliage wrapping around him. Ronnie's mind raced with questions. What was he about to encounter? Would it be the breakthrough they'd been waiting for? Above him, the drone circled, its infrared sensors continuing to scan the forest. The rest of the team, using the drone's live feed, worked in concert to cover different parts of the valley, hoping to flush out the creature or at least confirm its presence. The valley was massive, over 20,000 acres surrounded by steep mountains, but they were closing in. Bryce's eyes locked onto the thermal data. He could see the heat signature of something large moving quickly. "I've got it, right near the glacier," he called to Maria and Russ, who were on their way to the area. Meanwhile, Ronnie, unaware of the drone's pinpointing of the location, continued to track the creature through the trees, now only a few yards away from where the figure had been detected. He paused, listening. There it was again, the snap of branches. Something was ahead of him, large and unmistakably real. His breath hitched as he pushed forward, every step deliberate. The team had been chasing this elusive being for months, gathering thermal and physical evidence, but this was different. This was personal. He was right there, on the cusp of a discovery that could change everything. As Ronnie closed in on the location, the thick timber line seemed to shift. Every rustle in the underbrush made him tense, but his instincts kept him focused. He knew he was about to see something that could either confirm or shatter everything they had been working for. And for the first time in his career, it felt like the forest itself was watching, waiting for him to make the next move. Bryce, feeling the urgency and knowing how important this moment could be, decided to join Ronnie in his pursuit of the mysterious entity. Together, they moved through the thick underbrush, their eyes scanning for any signs that could confirm their suspicions. As they approached the area, Ronnie's sharp instincts guided him toward the tracks. He quickly spotted what looked like gigantic impressions in the earth, marking the creature's recent path. His breath caught in his throat, These weren't just footprints, they were enormous, almost too large to comprehend. In the shadows of the trees, the signs were undeniable. The Bigfoot had been here only moments before. Even more startling were the enormous tree stems, snapped clean in half, lying between the footprints. The sheer force required to break them was mind-blowing. And even more bizarre was the distance between the footprints, almost 6 feet apart, indicating a massive creature with an unusual gait. I'm about a quarter mile out, closing in fast. "Bry, I'm not hearing anything anymore," Ronnie called out to Bryce, his voice tense with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. He studied the area, trying to understand the scale of what he was seeing. The footprints clearly showed how far the entity had traveled, but the silence that now enveloped the area was unsettling. Realizing that the creature might still be nearby, Ronnie quickly decided to check the region. He didn't want to miss the opportunity to track the entity down, especially with such valuable evidence so close. His heart raced as he grabbed his thermal camera and began to scan the area. The thick trees around them were stacked tightly together, making it difficult for the thermal radiation to penetrate the dense forest. Every movement seemed amplified in the silence, and Ronnie knew this wasn't going to be easy. As he adjusted the camera, trying to get a clearer view, nothing appeared on the screen. No heat signatures. No signs of the humanoid form they were hoping to detect. He felt a pang of frustration. Had the creature already moved beyond their reach? But then, just as Ronnie was about to adjust his position, something shifted in the woods around them. There was movement, a shadow, a faint disturbance in the trees. And then, through the thick foliage, it became unmistakable. A large, humanoid figure moving toward them, its shape distinct against the background of the forest. Ronnie's heart skipped a beat. There it was, the being they had been tracking, only a few yards away. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The team had been chasing this entity for so long, gathering fragments of evidence, trying to piece together a picture of something so elusive. Now, the opportunity to face it head-on had finally arrived. But with the creature so close, there was no room for hesitation. Ronnie quickly signaled to Bryce, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. Ronnie, initially taken aback, thought the towering humanoid figure moving through the trees was Bigfoot. However, as it became clearer in the dim light, he realized it was Bryce, who had finally caught up after being guided by Ronnie's earlier observations. Despite the initial shock, they quickly regrouped and decided to follow the tracks together, now more determined than ever to find the elusive creature. With a brief exchange of the situation where they hypothesized that Bigfoot had probably evaded capture, they were both in agreement to continue tracking the path. The search team, buzzing with anticipation, knew this could be the breakthrough they had been hoping for. The conditions were tough, and their flashlights barely cut through the heavy darkness of the forest, but their resolve kept them moving forward. Their journey took them closer to the glacier, where they noticed the landscape changing. The ground was covered in a fresh layer of snow, and as they pressed on, their efforts were rewarded with an unmistakable sign of the Bigfoot's presence. The scene before them was chilling, a fresh kill, and the entire area was soaked in blood. "This is, right in front of us," Bryce murmured, his voice tense. The gruesome sight of the slaughtered animal, a clear victim of the creature's power, was undeniable. The ground was slick with blood, and the air was thick with the metallic scent, adding an unsettling weight to the moment. They carefully examined the area, looking for any clues that might shed light on the identity of the creature and the extent of its predatory nature. The scene felt even more disturbing in the dead of night, with the temperature dropping well below freezing. The team knew they were now entering a very dangerous territory. This was the domain of a hunter, and they were the prey. The sight of the blood-soaked snow and the wreckage of the kill served as a grim reminder of the creature's power, and it dawned on them that they might be in its sights next. Every rustling sound in the woods felt amplified, and the search team was acutely aware that they were in the middle of what could be the Bigfoot's hunting ground. If the creature were still in the area, it had the perfect advantage in these harsh conditions. They were not only vulnerable due to the freezing temperatures, but also exposed in the open, with no clear way of knowing when or where the creature might strike next. The discovery of the blood-stained snow and the brutal remains of its victim reinforced the growing realization that they were closing in on something far more dangerous than they had imagined. The stakes were higher than ever, and with every step, they knew they were getting closer to something or someone that might turn the hunt in ways they hadn't anticipated. Anyone would be understandably terrified to encounter such a gruesome scene, an animal ripped apart in a way that suggested not just hunger, but something much more intentional and savage. The realization that the creature responsible might still be lurking nearby sent chills down the spine of the search team. They knew they were not only in a predator's territory, but that they were the potential next victims in a cycle of violence that was deeply unsettling. Despite the horror of the situation, the team had a job to do as they examined the remains of the unfortunate creature, likely an elk or Sitka blacktail deer. They found themselves puzzled by the way the bones had been broken. The ribs were split wide apart in an almost surgical manner, raising questions about why the creature would go to such lengths to intentionally break the bones, even when the flesh could have sufficed. This bizarre behavior brought back memories of Mireya's earlier research, where humans from prehistoric times were known to consume the marrow from bones for nourishment. In fact, anthropologists and archaeologists have long proposed that consuming bone marrow played a crucial role in the development of human brain capacity. Early humans, in their Stone Age survival, would break the bones of their prey to access the nutrient-rich marrow, which is believed to have helped fuel brain development and cognitive advancement. Could this be a similar practice? Could the Bigfoot creature be exhibiting a behavior tied to this ancestral trait, as if seeking the marrow for its own biological development? This connection sparked a deeper, more unsettling realization. What if the creature they were dealing with was not just a typical animal, but something more, a hybrid that shared both human and animal traits? The thought of Bigfoot as a kind of prehistoric human-like being made the search even more pressing. It was no longer just a quest to find a creature of myth. They might be dealing with something that straddled the line between the animal kingdom and humanity itself. As Ronnie and Bryce dug deeper into the implications of the massacre, they couldn't shake the idea that they were confronting a hybrid, an intelligence that not only hunted for survival, but also exhibited traits that suggested a deep connection to human behaviors. Their earlier discovery of volcanic glass, which they had initially suspected might be linked to the creature's interactions with tools or weaponry, now seemed to add weight to their theory. With each new discovery, the blood, the bones, the hybrid behavior, they were uncovering more than they had bargained for. They were no longer just chasing after a mythic creature in the woods. They were beginning to suspect that they were confronting an entity that was not just an animal but a terrifyingly advanced predatory hybrid. And the deeper they ventured into the mystery, the more they realized how little they understood about the forces they were dealing with. As the team continues to process the horrific discovery before them, it becomes increasingly evident that whatever caused the bloody massacre was not a typical predator. This wasn't the work of a wolf, bear, or large feline. No, what they were witnessing was something far more alarming and incomprehensibly large. The way the bones had been shattered, the strange patterns of the kill, it was clear this wasn't just an act of survival, but something more deliberate, methodical, and deeply unsettling. The presence of volcanic glass in the area was even more telling. It suggested that these creatures, likely the Bigfoot, were not relying on their natural physical attributes alone. These substances, which appeared to be tools or weapons, could have been used by the creatures to slice through tissue, similar to how ancient humans used tools to process food or prepare materials. The discovery of such tools pointed to the possibility that these creatures weren't just mindless beasts but rather highly intelligent beings, capable of crafting and utilizing resources for survival in a way that was strikingly human-like. Ronnie and Bryce, after gathering samples from the scene, immediately relayed their findings to Mireya and Russ. Both of them understood the gravity of what had been discovered. The bloodshed wasn't just a random act of animal aggression, it was purposeful, possibly ritualistic, or at least driven by an intelligence far beyond what was typical for an animal. The search team was on edge, knowing that whatever had caused this massacre was likely still in the area and the danger was far from over. They quickly regrouped, aware that they were operating under extreme risk. The Bigfoot was clearly living in this remote area, where they could access both food and cover, hidden from human eyes, but close enough to sustain their large, dangerous existence. The team had been right about the creature's need for resources to survive. Food, shelter, and safety were all available in the valley, where the glacier and dense tree lines provided the perfect hunting grounds. The area was both a feeding and hiding ground, a place where the Bigfoot could move unnoticed while stalking its prey. Maria and Russ, determined to follow the creature's trail and locate it before it could escape, moved further into the valley. They pushed forward with the belief that they were getting closer. However, Ronnie and Bryce, having seen the raw evidence of the Bigfoot's power and aggression, chose to remain at the massacre site, determined to examine the remains further. They understood the importance of understanding the nature of this creature, the depths of its intelligence, and perhaps uncovering even more evidence that could give them a clearer picture of what they were truly dealing with. As Ronnie and Bryce meticulously studied the area, the implications of their findings became even more profound. They had suspected that this was more than a mere animal encounter. It was the evidence of an intelligent, possibly hybrid creature, and it was clear that they were dealing with something far beyond what they had anticipated. The hunt to find the creature had become not just a search for answers, but a race against time, as the team knew that their every move could be their last if they weren't careful. The discovery was monumental, one that would change everything they thought they knew about the mysterious beings inhabiting these remote wilds. And the more they uncovered, the more they realized how little they understood about the true nature of the Bigfoot. It was no longer just a myth, it was something far more real and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. As Ronnie and Bryce stood over the horrific scene, they found themselves grappling with more questions than answers. The blood-soaked snow and shattered bones spoke of a brutal kill, but there was something missing. Where was the body? If the creature had been dragged away, there would have been tracks, a clear sign of the direction the corpse had been hauled. Yet, there were no such tracks, leaving the team puzzled. The only plausible conclusion was that whatever creature had been killed wasn't dragged away at all. Instead, it seemed likely that the animal had somehow survived the attack and was moved elsewhere. The idea of a creature surviving such a violent act only deepened the mystery. And considering the nearby area where the thermal robot had previously detected signs of Bigfoot, the evidence pointed to the undeniable conclusion: this kill was the work of Bigfoot itself. Ronnie and Bryce shared a quiet, knowing glance. The pieces were starting to come together, but there was still so much left to understand. They had to dig deeper. The moment was pivotal, one that would either make or break the success of their investigation. As they gathered their thoughts and prepared to continue the search, the atmosphere shifted. A rustling sound in the nearby brush sent a chill down their spines, freezing them in place. Leaves crunched underfoot, and the unmistakable noise of movement, deliberate, heavy, was unmistakable. Their instincts kicked in, and within seconds, they had their thermal cameras up, scanning the surrounding area with a mixture of urgency and trepidation. They knew the stakes were high. The Bigfoot, or whatever it was, could be closer than they realized. With the camera lens focused, they searched the thick vegetation, hoping for some sign of movement. But as they panned through the area, there was nothing. No warm radiation, no clear indication of the creature's presence. The feeling of dread only heightened. Something was out there, but it was elusive, leaving no trace for them to follow, at least not yet. Still, they couldn't shake the unsettling sensation that they were being watched. The hairs on the back of their necks stood on end as they carefully considered their next move. With no visible sign of the creature, and only the faintest trace of disturbance in the undergrowth, they decided to proceed with caution. The decision was made. They would press forward toward the source of the rustling sound, where the atmosphere seemed thick with the anticipation of a confrontation. Their hearts raced as they moved, each step filled with tension and fear. They knew the Bigfoot was capable of incredible stealth. Its ability to blend with the environment was one of the many reasons it had remained such an enigma. But now they were on its trail, close enough to feel the weight of its presence, yet still far enough to remain unsure of what they would encounter. Bryce and Ronnie exchanged a quick nod, silently agreeing that they would continue their pursuit, whatever the cost. They couldn't turn back now, not after coming this far. Their investigation had taken a dangerous turn, and they were about to enter uncharted territory. The air was thick with frustration and fatigue as Rooney and Bryce surveyed the area, a mixture of disbelief and weariness settling over them. The early morning light was creeping through the dense forest, casting long shadows on the snow-covered ground. Despite the exhaustion pulling at their limbs, they still clung to hope. The last hour before the sun fully rose, when the forest was still and quiet, might offer the perfect window to catch the elusive Bigfoot in the open. It was a slim chance, but it was the only chance they had left. Their search had already taken hours, and the intensity of their pursuit was wearing them thin. As they turned their attention back to the scene where the gruesome remains of the kill lay scattered, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something monumental, yet just out of reach. They had followed these beings through dense forest, over treacherous terrain, and into the unknown. But something still eluded them. The creature they were after seemed to have a way of vanishing without a trace, leaving no clues behind. Meanwhile, Maria and Russ had not rested much through the night, driven by the same relentless desire to track down the creature. Their eyes were bloodshot, their steps heavy, but their determination hadn't waned. They had been on the hunt since the thermal drone had detected movement in the area, and despite the freezing temperatures and exhaustion, they pressed on. But as the hours passed and the terrain shifted, the tracks they had been following grew increasingly baffling. The path through the snow seemed to be leading them in circles, as if the creature was aware of their pursuit and playing a game of cat and mouse. The snow, which should have held any sign of passage, had been tainted by something almost supernatural. The tracks seemed to vanish and reappear, only to disappear again. It was as if the creature was purposefully obscuring its presence. As they neared the ice sheet, Maria and Russ exchanged uneasy glances. The frozen water stretched out before them, an imposing sheet of ice cutting across the landscape. And yet, despite the clarity of the surroundings, there were no fresh footprints, no signs of the creature's passage. The ice was pristine. No movement, no disturbance. It was perplexing. They had expected to find tracks leading across the snow or towards the edge of the ice sheet, but there was nothing, only the expansive, featureless expanse of snow and ice. The stream flowing alongside them, cutting through the sheet of ice, seemed to taunt them with its frozen, still surface. Behind them, the towering wall of ice loomed, creating an intimidating barrier that offered no answers. The lack of evidence had them questioning everything. Had they been following the right path? Was the creature somehow outsmarting them, blending into its environment with unnatural precision? Or was something more sinister at play, something they weren't yet prepared to comprehend? They stopped, taking in the scene around them, their breath forming clouds in the freezing air. The uncertainty gnawed at them as they stood on the edge of the stream, the sound of rushing water beneath the ice filling the silence. The missing tracks left an unsettling emptiness in their minds. How could something this massive, this elusive, be hiding so well? The team was on edge, but their resolve held firm. There was no turning back now. They had come this far, and they would continue their search, no matter how impossible it seemed. They had to find answers, if not for their own sake, then for the mysterious creature they had been chasing, one that was proving to be far more intelligent and dangerous than they had anticipated. As Maria and Russ continued to debate their next move, trying to decide whether to follow the tree line or investigate the strange lack of tracks, their cameraman's sharp eyes caught something. His voice cut through the quiet, urgently calling to Russ. "Look, up there on the glacier." Russ squinted through the cold morning haze and saw it, a shadowy figure standing atop the ice ridge, almost camouflaged against the bright white snow. His heart raced. "What is that?" he whispered under his breath, as the figure suddenly darted, vanishing into the skyline with alarming speed. "Did you see that?" Maria asked, her breath forming a mist in the cold air as she turned to Russ. He nodded. "Yeah, it moved fast. Whatever it is, it's not a bear." They all shared a quick glance, a mixture of disbelief and fascination on their faces. They had been expecting to find some clues, but this was something they hadn't anticipated. The figure was humanoid, but its movement was so swift, so calculated, that it left them with more questions than answers. Russ's eyes narrowed, his mind racing. "We can't let this go. It could be exactly what we're looking for." Without wasting another moment, Maria and Russ made a quick decision to track the figure, deciding to move towards the ice sheet where the mysterious entity had disappeared. The harsh environment of the glacier, with its towering ridges and deep crevices, was an unforgiving landscape for any creature. It seemed like an unlikely place for something, or someone, to call home. Yet the more they thought about it, the more it made sense. These glaciers, remote and treacherous, offered the perfect cover for a creature like Bigfoot or something more. This could be its hideaway, Mireya said, her voice low as she gazed at the towering ice formations. We've been thinking too small. It's not just hiding in the forest, it could be living here, where no one would expect. Russ agreed, but the thought of such a creature making its home in the glacier's desolate expanse made the whole situation even more unnerving. If they were right, they were walking into the very den of the creature they had been hunting, and it could strike at any moment. Meanwhile, back at the massacre site, Ronnie and Bryce were struggling to make sense of what they had found. Despite their efforts, the trail had gone cold. They'd searched every inch of the area, but the creature's tracks had disappeared, leaving them with only the unsettling memory of the slaughtered animal and the gruesome remains scattered across the snow. Bryce let out a frustrated sigh. We're missing something. There's no way it just disappeared into thin air. Ronnie nodded, scanning the area once more. That's when they found it. Right on the edge of the clearing, hidden beneath the fallen branches and snow, was a mark, a deep gash in the ground. It was unmistakable. A claw mark, sharp and deliberate. What the hell? That's no normal animal. The discovery sent a jolt through their bodies, their weariness forgotten for a moment as they processed what they had just found. This was no ordinary predator. The scale of the claw mark was too large, too powerful. It was the kind of damage only something enormous and highly intelligent could inflict. Bryce knelt beside it, running his gloved fingers over the marks. This is it. This is the thing we've been tracking. It's not just an animal, it's something else. Ronnie stood up, looking toward the horizon. We've got to tell Russ and Mireya. They're onto something. We need to link up with them before this gets any weirder. But as they began to gather their gear, ready to move out, the wind picked up, and a fresh layer of snow began to fall, covering the claw marks. It felt like nature itself was trying to erase the evidence. With no tracks to follow, they were left to speculate, but the discovery of the claw mark reinforced their suspicions. This was no ordinary predator. It was something far more dangerous. The search for answers had just become even more critical, but also more dangerous than ever before. As Bryce and Ronnie continued their search, the reality of their findings became more undeniable with each passing moment. The claw marks on the tree, deep and deliberate, were a key piece of evidence. At first, they had considered the possibility of a bear, but as they examined the damage, the truth became clear. No bear was responsible for this. Bear claw marks are typically parallel, but these were jagged, spread apart, and noticeably larger, stretching far beyond what would be expected from a normal predator. Bryce leaned in closer, scrutinizing the marks. "Look at this," he murmured. "No bear does this. Whatever this thing is, it's huge. These marks, they're at least 8 feet up the tree. Bears don't climb that high, and even if they did, they wouldn't leave this kind of damage." Ronnie nodded, his heart pounding. The implications were chilling. The sheer size and strength of the creature they were tracking were becoming more apparent. They had suspected something extraordinary, but this claw mark confirmed it. Whatever was out there was far from the typical wildlife of the area. "This isn't just an animal, this is something massive," Ronnie said, wiping snow from his face as he looked up at the tree. "And it's been here recently. We've got to keep pushing. It can't have gone far." With their new clue in hand, the two pressed on, but their progress was slow. The forest was dense, and the tracks left by the creature were elusive, making it seem like the entity had learned how to cover its tracks deliberately. It was as though it knew they were hunting it. On the other side of the mountain, Mireya and Russ had just completed their climb onto the icy mass, and despite the cold and exhaustion, they were driven by the need to close the gap between themselves and whatever had been eluding them for so long. They had spent the entire night tracking the creature, and now, with dawn breaking over the snowy expanse, they had no intention of stopping until they found answers. "I think we're getting closer," Mireya said, her breath visible in the freezing air as she gazed at the glacier ahead. "We need to be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with, but I'm certain it's close." Russ nodded. "We've got to stick together. It's only a matter of time before we find it. Let's not lose focus now." Despite the cold, their determination burned bright. They knew they were getting closer to the heart of the mystery. But as they advanced further into the ice field, a creeping unease settled over them. The landscape was eerily quiet, with only the sound of their footsteps crunching through the snow breaking the silence. There were no fresh tracks, no signs of life, only the vast expanse of ice stretching out before them. Suddenly, Russ stopped in his tracks. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, his senses on high alert. Maria froze, straining to listen. There it was, faint, almost imperceptible, the sound of something moving in the distance. It was too subtle to identify, but it was enough to send a chill down their spines. The hunt was on, and this time, they were getting closer to something that could finally answer all their questions. But what awaited them in the frozen wilderness was still unknown. The harsh and unforgiving environment of the glacier was a constant challenge for Maria and Russ, driving them to make decisions quickly. Every moment spent out in the open in this hostile setting put them at a greater risk of exposure, both to the freezing elements and to whatever might be lurking within the ice field. The glaciers, vast and desolate, provided the perfect environment for a predator, one that could easily take advantage of the terrain to remain hidden from human sight. Yet for the hunters, the dangers were ever present. The sub-zero temperatures, combined with the isolation, made it a difficult place for any human to survive, let alone track a creature that seemed to thrive in such conditions. After hours of searching, Maria's sharp eyes finally caught sight of something promising, an ice cave. It stood out against the surrounding landscape like an oasis in the middle of an icy wasteland. The sight of it was enough to spark a new sense of hope in the team. This cave could very well be the shelter the creature had been using, a hidden lair that would offer protection from the cold and a perfect vantage point for hunting. As they drew closer, they realized that if this was indeed the Bigfoot's lair, it could lead to the breakthrough they had been desperately searching for. "This is it," Maria said, her voice barely a whisper against the howling wind. "If the creature's been using this cave, it's the perfect place to hide." Russ nodded in agreement, his breath visible in the cold air. It's sheltered, well hidden, and close to water. It could definitely be the kind of place where something like Bigfoot would live. The urgency of their search began to settle in. They were so close to uncovering the truth, but they couldn't afford to make any mistakes now. The glacier wasn't a place that would forgive any missteps. The two of them moved cautiously towards the cave, every step calculated. Their hands gripped their weapons and equipment tightly, their minds fully focused on the task at hand. They could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them as they neared the potential discovery of a lifetime. But just as they were about to enter the cave, they realized the limitations of their situation. The mountainous region they were in was vast, and they knew that searching it entirely on foot would take far too long. The helicopter was their best chance of covering ground quickly and efficiently. After a series of phone calls and negotiations, the team was able to secure the use of a helicopter from a genome-based research organization that had the resources to assist. With the helicopter's help, they would be able to cover the region faster, scan areas that were inaccessible on foot, and search for more clues in the shortest time possible. Maria and Russ made their way back to a clearing where the helicopter was waiting, the sound of its rotor blades growing louder as it descended from the sky. The team climbed aboard, their eyes fixed on the ice fields below them, knowing that the next phase of their search was about to begin. As the helicopter lifted off and soared over the ice fields, they felt the adrenaline rush through their veins. This was their last push. This was the moment they had been preparing for. And as they looked out over the landscape, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something that would change everything. Their search had brought them this far, and now, with the helicopter at their disposal, they were ready to take the next step, closer than ever to the truth. From the air, the team realized just how crucial their decision to conduct an aerial search was. The vast expanse of ice, crevasses, and snowfields was impossible to navigate on foot in the time they had. The helicopter gave them an advantage, a bird's-eye view that could spot any movement, any disturbance in the snow, which could lead them to the creature they were hunting. The stakes were high, and the pressure was palpable. Their hopes were pinned on spotting the Bigfoot before it could retreat into the dense forests, where the search would become even more difficult, if not impossible. As the helicopter circled the ice fields, the crew kept their eyes trained on the ground below, scanning for any signs of movement. The snow, untouched and pristine in most areas, provided an ideal canvas to spot disturbances, tracks, footprints, or anything that could indicate the creature's presence. It was a waiting game now, and every minute in the air felt critical. They needed to catch a glimpse of something, anything, to make the entire search worthwhile. The silence in the helicopter was deafening, only broken by the rhythmic sound of the blades slicing through the air. As they approached the forest's edge, their hopes grew. This was the area they had been focusing on, where they believed the creature had been last spotted. But as they scanned the ground below, there was no sign of movement. No tracks, no fresh disturbances in the snow. It was as if the creature had vanished into thin air. The tension mounted as the helicopter flew over the area again. The team's anticipation was replaced by growing frustration. Each second felt like an eternity as they re-examined the region, moving methodically across the vast icy expanse. They checked again and again, searching for any sign of the elusive creature. But no tracks, no footprints, no movement. The snow remained undisturbed. The crew was devastated. They had flown across the glacier, scoured every inch of the terrain, and yet there was nothing to show for their efforts. The creature they had been hunting for hours had either hidden itself so well or had already retreated into the forest long before they had arrived. It was as if it had anticipated their arrival and made its escape. For the team, this was a crushing blow. They were so close to uncovering something that could change everything. Yet, in the most crucial moment, when they thought they might finally make their discovery, they found nothing. They hovered over the glacier, helpless, as the weight of their failure settled in. But even in the face of defeat, the team wasn't ready to give up. They had come too far to let this setback stop them. They made the decision to go back to the spot once more, to search every possible angle, hoping against hope that the creature had left some trace behind, some clue that could guide them to its whereabouts. But once again, they found nothing. It was a bitter disappointment, but it also taught them something vital. The creature was cunning, too cunning for them to track so easily. It had vanished before they could get close enough, hiding in plain sight or retreating into the forest just as they had approached. Still, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were getting closer, that the next search, the next clue, could lead them to the truth they had been chasing for so long. As the team returned home after weeks of searching, they were determined not to let the absence of Bigfoot's presence in their immediate area discourage them. The failure to find the creature didn't diminish their resolve. Instead, they saw it as just another step toward understanding the elusive entity. They had gathered invaluable data, and now it was time to analyze it more thoroughly, using every bit of technology and expertise they had. While the rest of the team took a well-deserved break, Bryce remained focused on going over the findings from their field work. He knew that sometimes the key to these mysteries lay in the details, things that might have been overlooked in the heat of the search. He meticulously reviewed everything the team had captured, including the recordings from the highly sensitive microphones that Ronnie and Maria had set up in the forest. These microphones weren't your average recording devices. They were hypersensitive omnidirectional microphones, capable of picking up even the slightest sound within their range. Unlike conventional recorders, these mics could capture even the faintest rustle, giving them an edge in detecting movement or sounds that might indicate the presence of something or someone moving through the forest. Bryce had checked the audio feeds regularly during the search, but initially, all he had heard were the typical background noises of the forest, birds, small mammals, and the occasional rustling of leaves. But as he dug deeper into the recordings, something caught his attention. A low, almost imperceptible noise. At first, it seemed like just another background sound, something easily dismissible. But as he listened closer, he could hear it more clearly. It wasn't just rustling or the movement of animals. It was something else, something unnerving. A deep, unintelligible whisper. It was faint at first, but unmistakable once Bryce adjusted the audio levels. The whisper wasn't like any sound they had recorded before. It seemed to come from somewhere in the dense forest, just out of reach of the microphones, yet it was clear enough to stand out. It was almost as though the whisper was directed at them, too deliberate to be natural, too otherworldly to be just another animal sound. The hairs on the back of Bryce's neck stood up as he listened. There was a certain eerie quality to the whisper that made it feel both ominous and elusive. Bryce wasn't sure what to make of it yet, but he knew one thing for certain: they had just uncovered something significant. He quickly shared his discovery with the rest of the team, and soon they were all re-listening to the recording. The sound seemed to add another layer to the mystery they were chasing, a clue perhaps, or a warning. Whatever it was, it had eluded them in the field, but now, in the quiet of their analysis, they had found it. This whisper could be the breakthrough they had been waiting for. Bryce's heart raced as he dialed Dr. Ronald Cosper's number. He had read about Cosper's groundbreaking work on deciphering the language structure of Bigfoot vocalizations. Known for his studies on strange and unexplained languages, Cosper had spent years working with recorded evidence of Bigfoot encounters. He was the perfect person to help Bryce understand the peculiar whispering sound they'd uncovered. After several rings, the phone clicked, and Dr. Cosper's eager voice filled the line. "Bryce, I was just about to dive into a new project, but this is incredible. What do you have for me?" Cosper's excitement was palpable. Bryce wasted no time. "Dr. Cosper, I think we may have something significant. While reviewing some audio from our fieldwork, we found a low, unintelligible whisper that doesn't seem to belong to any known animal. It's from around dusk, and it's faint but unmistakable. We think it might be Bigfoot. I've cleaned up the file, and the sound seems deliberate, almost like vocalization." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line, followed by an intrigued hum. A deliberate vocalization, you say? Interesting. The structure of these sounds is key to understanding the language they use. If it's Bigfoot, we might be looking at something much more complex than we've previously understood. Bryce felt a rush of anticipation. He had been hoping for this moment, hoping that someone with Cosper's expertise could help make sense of this strange recording. "I'm sending you the audio file. I know you've had success with other recordings in the past, especially those like Aubrey Osmond's encounter. Do you think it's possible to decode this?" Dr. Cosper's voice dropped slightly in tone. "Aubrey Osmond's case was fascinating. We found patterns in his account and matched them with Bigfoot vocalizations. This new recording could be a breakthrough, especially if we can identify a consistent structure in the sound. I'll analyze it right away. Give me a few hours to listen closely, and I'll get back to you with my thoughts. If this is what I think it could change everything." Bryce nodded, even though Cosper couldn't see him. "I'll be waiting for your response." "Thanks, Dr. Cosper." "Don't mention it, Bryce. I'll be in touch soon. This could be the moment we've been waiting for." As Bryce hung up the phone, he couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. The path forward was clearer now. With Dr. Cosper's expertise, they were one step closer to uncovering the truth behind the mysterious whisper and potentially the elusive creature itself. As Bryce listens to Dr. Cosper's analysis of the audio recordings, a flood of realization sweeps over him. Dr. Cosper's translation, that the sounds are not just animalistic but rather human-like, signals a breakthrough that no one could have predicted. This discovery implies that these creatures, whatever they are, might possess language, a structure of communication far more complex than anyone had previously suspected. The mention of two distinct voices, one uttering the word Kumba and the other producing an almost incomprehensible sound at half the wavelength, suggests that there could be multiple individuals involved. This possibility makes Bryce uneasy, but it also excites him. The idea that there's a community of Bigfoot, one capable of using language, opens up a whole new dimension to their investigation. These creatures aren't isolated entities. They could be part of a larger functioning group, communicating and perhaps even working together. This revelation shifts the focus of the team's mission. The question now isn't just about proving Bigfoot exists. It's about understanding their culture, their communication, and their social structure. Bryce quickly discusses the results with Dr. Cosper, who confirms the significance of the recordings. The analysis of different sound levels and wavelengths reveals more than just isolated noises. They indicate the presence of multiple individuals in the area. This confirms the team's suspicion that they might be dealing with a species capable of living in organized communities, with language as their tool for interaction. For Bryce, the implications are huge. If Bigfoot can communicate in a language-like form, they could be far more intelligent than they've ever been given credit for. With this new understanding, the team sets out for a second expedition. They now realize that the search is no longer just about tracking a single creature, it's about finding a colony, a community of these beings. This mission takes on a new level of urgency, as the team prepares to delve deeper into areas that could hold even more dangerous encounters. As they head toward their next destination, likely more remote and perilous than before, the risks grow, but so does the excitement. Armed with new information and a clearer understanding of their quarry, they are more determined than ever to uncover the truth behind Bigfoot. The mystery no longer feels insurmountable. It feels closer to being solved than it ever has before. With each step, they edge closer to a groundbreaking discovery. But as the forest thickens and the environment becomes more hostile, they know that their next moves will be their most critical yet. The stakes are higher than ever, but the team is resolved to press on. The answers they seek are out there, waiting to be uncovered.